Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about fault code P0333. Knock sensor 2 line 2. Input value too high. This is a code that can be caused by a few different things, so I'm going to go over the most common causes and how to diagnose them. I'll also show you how to fix the problem if you're able to do it yourself. So, if you're having problems with this code, be sure to watch this video. Code P0333 is a diagnostic trouble code, DTC, that indicates a problem with the knock sensor circuit. The knock sensor is a device that monitors the engine's combustion process and detects any abnormal knocking or pinging sounds. These sounds can be caused by a variety of factors, such as low-octane fuel, carbon buildup, or an overly advanced ignition timing. The knock sensor sends a signal to the engine control unit (ECU) when it detects knocking. The ECU then adjusts the ignition timing to prevent further knocking. If the knock sensor is malfunctioning, the ECU may not be able to adjust the ignition timing correctly, which can lead to engine damage. There are several possible causes of code P0333. These include faulty knock sensor. The knock sensor itself may be faulty and need to be replaced. Damaged wiring or connectors. The wiring or connectors to the knock sensor may be damaged, causing the sensor to malfunction. Carbon buildup. Carbon buildup on the knock sensor can prevent it from functioning properly. Low-octane fuel. Using low-octane fuel can cause knocking, which can trigger code P0333. Overly advanced ignition timing. If the ignition timing is too advanced, it can cause knocking and trigger code P0333. To diagnose code P0333, you will need to use a scan tool to retrieve the trouble codes from the ECU. Once you have retrieved the codes, you can use a repair manual to determine the possible causes of the code. You can then perform a visual inspection of the knock sensor and wiring, and check the fuel octane rating. If you are unable to diagnose the problem yourself, you should take your vehicle to a qualified mechanic. The repair for code P0333 will depend on the underlying cause of the problem. If the knock sensor is faulty, it will need to be replaced. If the wiring or connectors are damaged, they will need to be repaired or replaced. If there is carbon buildup on the knock sensor, it will need to be cleaned. If you are using low-octane fuel, you will need to switch to a higher-octane fuel. If the ignition timing is too advanced, it will need to be adjusted. Code P0333 is a serious problem that can lead to engine damage. If you see this code on your vehicle's dashboard, you should take it to a qualified mechanic as soon as possible. The most common symptom of code P0333 is a knocking or pinging noise coming from the engine. This noise is caused by the engine detonating the fuel too early, which can damage the engine. Other symptoms of code P0333 may include reduced engine power, increased fuel consumption. Check engine light illumination. To diagnose code P0333, you will need to use a scan tool to read the trouble codes from the engine control unit, ECU. The scan tool will also display the live data from the knock sensor, which can help you to determine if the sensor is functioning properly. If the scan tool indicates that the knock sensor is functioning properly, then the next step is to inspect the wiring and connectors for the knock sensor. Make sure that the wiring is not damaged or corroded, and that the connectors are clean and tight. If the wiring and connectors are in good condition, then the next step is to replace the knock sensor. The knock sensor is located on the engine block, and it is usually easy to replace. To repair code P0333, you will need to replace the knock sensor. The knock sensor is located on the engine block, and it is usually easy to replace. Once you have replaced the knock sensor, you will need to clear the trouble code from the ECU. You can do this using a scan tool. After you have cleared the trouble code, you should test drive the vehicle to make sure that the code does not return. If the code returns, then you will need to take the vehicle to a qualified mechanic for further diagnosis.